Yo, what's going on? This is the Highly Advised Podcast. We are back, the three of us, as you see, live in effect. We are back, and we are talking on a Sunday morning. This is episode 106 of the Highly Advised Podcast, and I'm just going to say it. For those people who are listening to this, you should follow us on YouTube at the Highly Advised Podcast, Advised Highly on Twitter, Highly Advised Podcast on Instagram. Like, subscribe, follow, do all those things that you can to support us, watch our videos, leave comments, all that shit. If you're not doing that, I'm just gonna tell you right now, you messing up. You messed up in the head. You messed up right here. I can see it. You can't see it. I can see it. We can see it. Yeah. Big Cozy,
Third Eye Open,
and Relaxing OG _Jackson. We all can see that you messed up. You need our help. You need to be highly advised.
Yeah, look, how are you guys doing? The hill has spoken, man. The hill has spoken, man.
He is back.
It's like feel like Ric Flair, man.
Yeah. Thank God he is back.
Definitely. Nah, I can't complain though, man. I'm doing pretty good. It's been a minute since I've been on. A couple of things, as Lau has told many of y'all, broken legs, broken ankles, broken everything. But similar to Wolverine, I'm back after only a couple weeks. You know what I'm saying? My body doesn't need a year to heal. I just give me a couple days days in a protein shake and some sea moss.
The protein shake of sea moss is AKA for serum.
Yo, listen, man, Dr. Magneto, man.
Yeah, Dr. Magneto. I fucks with that. Dr. Magneto, right there. That's what episode 106 is. I'm doing good, man. I can't even complain. Life is good. Family is good. You know what I mean? My brethren is good. Money is good. Future is good. Opportunities is good. God is the greatest. Shouts out to all the listeners. Shouts out to all the viewers. Make sure you do what Naj just told y'all to do, because if not, you'll have to see a nasty side, and you don't want to see the nasty side.
You don't like him when he's angry.
Did y'all know that in the Jetsons, George Jetson was born today as we're recording this?
I see the Twitter, Instagram, they've been talking about it. I mean, I guess it's kind of cool. I mean, we've reached a point in life where a fictional character is born, so I don't know what else to say about it.
Well, my point in saying that is, do you think in like 35 years, like I'm assuming he's around 30 by the time we see him in the show, because he got like, his kids and shit. Yeah. Do you think in 30 more years we're going to be flying around in cars and whatnot, and having machines dress us and whatnot?
I think yes, but not as what we see on like TV and movies. I think we'll be in the pioneer stages of it, because they're already been testing out cars that can like fly or go into water. Obviously, they're not operational and function for normal society, but I'm pretty sure in 30 or 40 years, if we have cars that could drive themselves on the road today without us touching the steering wheel in the form of Teslas, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a car in 30 or 40 years that you could take some level of levitation or flight. I'm not saying to be 40,000 feet in the air like a plane, but like, maybe be able to, come off the ground a little bit and hover across or whatever. I don't think it's far-fetched, especially if they're building cars where, like I just said, you don't even need to touch the road to drive. Now, will it be high in the sky like the Jetsons? No, I don't believe that, but we'll be advanced in 30 or 40 years, though. We'll also be old as fuck in 30 or 40 years.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean,
I just always think it's funny how they portray the future in shows and shit like that, because it's never what they think it is. Like, I think in the 90s, they were already cloning people according to some movies. So, you know what I mean? That's that.
Yeah. I mean, there's always like a gap between, but at the same time, we all know like life imitates art a lot of times. Like even my favorite movie of all time, Back to the Future, that whole series.
What's your favorite movie?
One of my favorite movie series. That Breakfast Club, that whole
That's interesting.
80s hits.
Yo, some of the best movies I've ever
60
watched.
Candles.
Watched that on TBS once.
Oh,
wasn't my thing. The Goonies.
Oh, the Goonies. I fuck with the Goonies. I did.
That's interesting. What? So Spence, you said Back to the Future is your favorite movie. The whole. What's your favorite movie, Nigel?
I always used to say The Matrix, man, but it's like over time. Like I'm gonna say The Matrix now because that's the first one that comes to my head. But I do like quite a bit of movies. I'm actually trying to get more into movies like I used to be.
I'm not mad at that.
I'm not mad at it neither.
Yeah, it's like it's. I think now, and just in terms of movies, like it's. I think there's starting to be some shift in terms of like some of the movies that are out.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, we've seen it definitely over the past couple of years. Like, there's a shift in some of the movies that come out now. So, it's a time. I'll just put it like this: it is a time to be a moviegoer in comparison to like the past umpteen years, where it's just nothing but renditions of movies from like the 80s and 60s and 70s. Like, I don't know, man. Some of these movies are just rehashed out, and I'm just glad we're out of that vampire phase, to be honest with you.
You know, I think that it's actually never going to end. And the reason why I say that, because a lot of the movies that we watched back in the day, like, for example, Scarface, it was a rehash of a movie prior to that.
Right.
And of course, at the time, we didn't know that. We thought it was some fresh concept, not realizing, this is another concept that they took for everything. So I think as moving forward in the future, I think we'll start to realize with newer movies that we'll be like, oh shit, we seen the original version of this back when we were kids type shit. So I think that's always going to be there. I think the way we watch movies is going to be different.
Yes, I agree.
I think it's going to be a lot of different. I think the streaming platforms, they're definitely going to be putting their strongest dollars forward to get some of these big movies on their platforms and compete with movie theaters. I don't think movie theaters are going to go away just yet, at least not when we're young. But the way we watch movies is changing. I can say that.
That is something I do see changing, maybe not towards like the Jetsons fully though, but the way we watch TV and movies will change. Like I was doing a little bit of research into it and they were just talking about like, cable and whatnot and what are the big innovations coming to that. And like one big thing that I could see is being VR, like where you watch it in a VR space, or AR, where you're actually interacting with the show you're watching just straight out, Yeah. Now, I mean, we're a little bit of ways off, but they're developing that like as we speak.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it to some extent, right? Like look back to the big hype around Bandersnatch. Like Bandersnatch. I thought that's what I was saying in my head.
I know what you meant.
Sure. But yeah, Bandersnatch. Like that was like a super interactive movie. And it was just you pick a decision. So like I'm quite sure definitely now when we have like the VR world, and like imagine you put on like a haptic suit to watch a movie, and now you're actually like in the movie, like
you're a character.
Like in every decision. That's kind of, I mean, we're not far. I don't think it's far fetched. I think, especially if you're giving it like, if we're looking at the Jetsons and you're giving it like 30 years from now.
Yeah.
Technology, the way technology is now, like what was 5 years is now like a year and a half or 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you're right.
Well, I mean, just think about it, right? Like you got like Bandersnatch, and even in like games like GTA, like you can pretty much do what you want in there. You want to go and fuck a hooker, you can do that. You want to go and cause some rampage, you can do that. Now, obviously it's limited to a certain degree, but with GTA 6 coming out, you're about to have more options coming up, and everybody's really anticipating that.
Yeah, for sure. I think GTA is kind of like the poster boy for like open world sandbox like games where you can do whatever the fuck you want to do, and they're trying to make more freedom available in these type of games versus in the past. Like when you were playing the old school GTAs like San Andreas, when you could just customize your lowrider, your car, motherfuckers got happy with that. Like, oh shit, I could throw
Right.
rims on this
Yeah.
shit. Da da da. So imagine what's going to happen in GTA 6.
Nah,
So
that's a
my,
fact. Well, go ahead.
well, pretty much there have been reports coming out that, and nothing's for sure. Of course, we'll never know until they actually do a reveal. But supposedly GTA 6 is going to have the first female protagonist. Not only that, we'll be back in Vice City, which a lot of people, they'll say that's their favorite game. Me personally, it's San Andreas. But to me, it sounds very fun because, especially if you're a Latina in Vice City, which is like make believe Miami, I think that can set up for a lot of interesting scenarios.
Yeah.
Uh,
Go ahead, Spence.
Well, I was gonna say definitely like in today, definitely if it's taking if the year is taking place is like a relevant year since social media, since like the dawn of the big wave of the internet since like 2015 and up, like that makes for like a very interesting storyline, especially when we know like all that's all that the internet offers today. Like, and you and Court, and we all know like GTA is notorious for having a structure of just like a free for all. Like even back in the day, like when GTA 3, when you could go and have sex with hookers or whatnot, and
They revolutionized it.
Yeah, that was a big deal then, and that was like, and we all know the graphics were horrible compared to today.
But
Right.
at the time, though, think about it, though. Like,
That's true.
this is early 2000s, pixels for us, especially a lot of them, we were like, holy shit. You know what I mean? Because we had triangles and squares and shit. And it wasn't necessarily like the greatest, but on PS3, you moving your hands around like this, that was a big step up from not having hands at all, pretty much.
Yeah. Now, shoot, bro. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you. I hope there's a way they're able to bring something like GTA to like an interactive space, like a VR space.
Yeah.
Because like even playing with like the Oculus, like in certain games, you can just use your hands. I can put the controllers down. I can just use my hands as like the controls. So imagine just like having that type of experience on a game like that today is just definitely with like there's what's considered red tape today or caution tape for today is like
Opportunities for somebody else.
Yeah, which is like so many X rated in comparison to like 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So this is gonna be interesting though. Like, do they have an idea when this is gonna drop?
To the things that I've read online on the internet, and I understand you don't always believe things you see on the internet. Apparently, 2025 is the reported release date of the game, which is, I think, is a lot sooner from what we saw before, like last year. They said like 2026, 7 or something like that. So if we get in 2025, that's cool. That's kind of right around the corner when you think about it. I think it's dope that they're having a female protagonist. Is now the female protagonist isn't the sole protagonist. From what I've read, apparently there's still going to be a male protagonist, so it's going to be like 2 characters you can play with. But I think having a female in there for the first time, I think that's dope because obviously when everybody's played Grand Theft Auto, there's always been a male protagonist from different cultural background. It's never been the same guy throughout each game or whatever. So having a female this time, especially a Spanish one, I think that's going to bring more eyeballs onto the game and more people are maybe willing to try the game. It's going to be wild though. It's going to be wild. I can only imagine what people are going to do when they're playing with a female protagonist, but it's going to be wild. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to play the game. I'm looking forward to having a good time playing the game. But yeah, man, shouts out to everybody working on Grand Theft Auto, man.
Definitely. I'll definitely will be getting this game.
Yeah.
I will say that much.
So in the meantime, before the game was coming out, Lau, I was hanging out with him, family, you know what I mean? Chilling out, watching UFC 277. And I personally thought the card was good, but there are specifically 3 fights I want to hit on other than in the prelims. Drew Dober had a fantastic body shot that led to a TKO. So definitely want to give him, a little bit of praise before we move on to that. But there were 3 fights from the main card that I really wanted to hit on. The first being Alexandre Pantoja versus Alex Perez. He had a good showing last night.
Yeah. He dominated that fight. what was that, like a 1 minute performance?
It's 1 minute and 31 seconds.
There we go. Almost a little close to 2 minute performance. He came out the gate. He wanted to make a statement. He didn't get the knockout he was looking for, but as soon as he wrapped his body around Alex Perez's body, not even choked him out. It was like a neck crank.
Yep.
He got his hand on the chin and just cranked it with full force. And Alex Perez was like, ouch, that shit hurt. And he tapped out.
That should be the name of the episode. Because he definitely did say ouch. Like, for sure. He tapped out real quick. Nah.
Yeah.
I was impressed, man, because I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm not overly familiar with Pantoja, but I mean, anybody who wasn't familiar with him should be familiar now. He came out to many men. You know, he said, "Hey, look, I need to make a statement." And pretty much from the moment the bell rung, it was touch and go. He was like, he wasn't trying to play around with Alex Perez. Like you said, hey, I don't get paid by the hour. I get paid by the fight. Let's wrap this up. Let's go home. We in Vegas. Obviously, I'm sorry, they were in Dallas last night. They're trying to have a good time, get some steak. You know what I mean? Chill out.
Oh yeah, that makes even more sense because like I watched it and it literally, like you said, straight out the gate, Pantoja's all on him. Like he's literally like a pit bull practically. And as soon as he wraps him, like it's similar to what you're saying. It kind of goes downhill from there. Like I don't know. To me, I wasn't familiar with him prior to the fight, and it's definitely one of those fights where it's like, okay, this is on my radar now. Like I'm curious to see like what's going to happen in his next fight. Now, I'm not sure who he would be fighting, or who would be the best fit, but he's definitely got the eyes of like a lot of fans after the performance last night.
Yeah, man. You got to give credit to the flyweights too, man, because what was it last week? You had Matt Chanel in that crazy ass fight where I thought he was going to get knocked out. Then he comes back and puts the dude to sleep where blood is all over the canvas. So I'm like, Jesus. Crazy. Yeah. And then you have this week where you have two banger flyweight performances. And I'm going to go ahead and pass the baton back to Nigel because I think it's going to lead to the next thing we're talking about.
The next thing we have to talk about is the baby assassin himself, who I chose against in this fight, Brandon Moreno. He beat Kai Kara-France. And I'm not going to lie, throughout the whole fight, he looked like he was feeling himself. He was moving around, kind of flowing in there. And he ended the fight. I heard the strike more so than saw it with a body kick that just sent Kai Kara-France to the ground. I was very impressed with his performance last night. And not only that, they ended it with bringing in Davison Figueiredo into the ring. And hey, look, we're going to set up the fourth fight. I think that fight personally needed more of a storyline around it other than the 3 fights leading up to it, just to make people excited for the fourth fight. Me personally, as an MMA fan, it makes me excited to see them fight for the fourth time. And I can't wait for it.
Yeah. I thought to speak on the fight first, I thought it was a good fight. It was very back and forth in the first 2 rounds. Actually, the first 2 rounds, you could argue they're kind of swing rounds. You could kind of make arguments that each fighter might have won the round. The third round, though, Kai Kara-France was winning that round.
Yep.
He was busting up Brandon pretty bad. But Brandon, he was never out of the fight. And then, of course, well-placed liver kick, and Kai just folded, and then Brandon pounced on him, and the fight was over. Good fight. Kai Kara-France should not hang his head. I think he showed that he can hang with the best of them, and he'll be back. And I think it was good. And yes, it's time for the fourth fight between Figueiredo and Moreno to happen. That feud needs to end. But this fourth fight should be like the definitive end between the two.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like just in terms of the fight itself, I was coming in from from the Kendrick concert. So like by the time I saw the fight, I actually got a chance to turn on the fight right before they had made the announcement who won the fight. But when I went back to look at it, it was a good performance. Brandon Moreno, especially, he looked really good for the most part. But that kick, as soon as you saw that kick, even when the first thing I saw was just the replay. And as soon as you saw the kick in slow motion, takes a step back, Kai Kara-France drops. Like it looked beautiful. And even he said in the post-fight interview, like, yeah, I've been practicing that. Like this is something he's been practicing ever since the last fight with Figueiredo. So like it's good to see like his performance, and it's going to be interesting to see like that fourth fight, especially for them to bring him into the ring, I guess you could say, or octagon. I mean, now granted, like I'm a fan of like sports in terms of like combat sports when they have a chance of trash talking. But he actually handled this like in a very humble way. Brandon Moreno just tell him like, yo, I got my kids watching, so I'm not even gonna say nothing crazy.
Yeah.
Let's just fight again. So like I think it should be interesting to see how the fourth fight goes, but hopefully similar to what you said, it's like the end of that, because I think this would be the first fourth fight series in the UFC, I believe.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yep.
I think it is. And to me is worthy enough to be a main event. Of course, you got to build a strong card around it. I hope Brandon Moreno wins. This Figueiredo dude just seems like an issue to deal with.
I agree.
Yeah, I hope Moreno wins and moves, because he seems like he's willing to fight the top guys. This Figueiredo dude, he just seems like he's a bit of a drama queen. But that's just my opinion on it.
I fuck with Deiveson Figueiredo because I think he can fight, but
he's a good fighter.
At the same time, it just seems kind of weird how he's handling this situation. Now, before we get into the main event, I did want to throw a little dishonorable mention towards the Derek Lewis fight. It had kind of had an early stoppage, and there's not really much to say about it. He got knocked down for sure, but it just looked like he was about to pick himself back up and continue to fight, but we'll never know because the fight ended early. So there's a big question mark, and that's where we're going to leave that. Moving on to the main event, we had the rematch, Amanda Nunes versus Juliana Pena versus Amanda Nunes. And it was an interesting fight because Juliana Pena tried to fight a similar fight to the first fight, but Amanda Nunes looked more prepared this time around, definitely with the counter, right? She wasn't letting her come in and fight her just any type of way. She knocked her down more than a few times, actually, en route to a decision win. And to me, it just shows like, hey, look, like it's similar to GSP Matt Serra, right? Hey, the first time you got me. It just is what it is. You got me. And I must have not been prepared that night, which that's the champion's fault, you know? At the same point in time, this time she was prepared and she looked very ready to fight Juliana Pena. Now, that being said, Juliana Pena stuck in there and she did catch her a few times on the feet and on the ground. I would say it's definitely still like if they were to go there, maybe more early in the fight, she would have a little bit more success. But Amanda Nunes is bigger, stronger, and wily on the ground as well. So she's not just going to get finished just like that. So Amanda Nunes, she looked good in this fight. She really just went in there and won. I thought her performance was great, and she is now double champ once again. You got to give it to her.
That's the craziest part of this whole thing.
Yeah.
Like the fact that she ends up becoming double champion after this, like it's not even like she was just fighting for her belt back and she wasn't a champion already. Like to be fighting again to become the double champion for a second time. There's nothing more than you could say but congratulations. Like she looked really good in the fight. Similar to what you said, like even with Pena, it looked like she kind of was going for the same approach as before. Hey, let me rush her with a fury of like punches, and I might land and connect a few times. It was a couple good exchanges in that fight, but like that right for the most part, after a while, I just started dropping Pena over and over again. And personally, to me, like just looking through the fight, like at no point could I ever think that Juliana Pena won a single round in this fight. Like you can see where you can just see where Amanda was just way more like, hey, you got me. I'm way more prepared and I'm going to beat you. I'm going to beat you and make sure you realize like this was what happened was a fluke. And she definitely delivered.
Yeah. Shouts out to both ladies to put on an entertaining fight. It was definitely a bloodfest. So I know the fans that loves blood and guts. That's probably the fight to see. That's what they're tuning in to see. Amanda Nunes, it was clear as day. She spanked her from pillar to post. What I will say is I did choose Pena to win by decision because I thought Pena just had her number because she showed in the fight last night, as the time of this recording last night, that she still wasn't scared. Yeah, she got dropped like 6 times, knocked down 6 times, but she kept coming. She even landed some hard shots on on Nunes. Actually, I think this fight, even though Nunes was the clear winner, I think this fight though really exposed some holes in Nunes' game on the feet. Her striking defense is not really good at all. And the only reason why she did win, because she's the better striker against her and Pena, and she dropped Pena many times because she has the power. But Nunes got hit a lot. And I think that's very telling for somebody who's looking for holes in her game. So whoever she fights next, and I don't know who, so I'm not even going to go there, but it'd be very smart if the training camp really does some film study and look at those glaring holes of her getting hit as much she got hit. But with that being said, on the fight itself, though, Amanda Nunes clearly won. She beat her on the feet. She beat her on the ground. I do think that if they went to the ground like first or second round, she might have got caught in one of those submissions because she kept getting caught in submissions. And I'm like, she's making a lot of mistakes, man. And I that's what that fight showed me. Yeah, she won clearly, so there's no debate. But if it was against somebody who wasn't just blocking punches with their faces like Pena, if she fought a real talented striker, I really think that she'd be in trouble. So we'll obviously, we'll just have to wait to see who our next opponent is. Shouts out to Amanda Nunes because she came in and got the job done, and she got it done the best of her abilities. And shouts out to Pena because she tried to prove it wasn't a fluke. Even though she did get her ass whooped, she kept coming. She landed some good shots. She did get quite a few submission attempts. It just wasn't good enough. And Amanda Nunes reclaimed her throne as the queen of mixed martial arts.
Yeah. What are you about to say?
Oh, no, I was just saying, yeah, I agree. I think the thing, just in terms of the holes that Lau was speaking on, like we saw a couple of times in that fight where Amanda, she was getting caught. And like in certain instances, I think she got caught at least once or twice, and she just went for a takedown. Like, had this been like Lau said, a better skill fighter, she probably would have gotten taken down. And that's probably why in those earlier rounds when she was dropping Pena, she wasn't going to the ground. Because even from the submission standpoint, like even though like Juliana was getting hit, like you said, she kept coming at it. I think at some point, I think they said she had at least 10 or no, at least over it was over 10 submission attempts in the whole fight. So like any better skilled fighter, I think she'll definitely have a problem moving forward.
Pretty much the fight that they're setting up next is going to be, or what they're rumoring is the Valentina fight. She had mentioned her on Twitter, or pretty much mentioned the fight on Twitter. And they also asked Dana White in the post-fight press conference if they were going to fight next. And he said, it doesn't sound like a bad idea, quote unquote.
Yeah, I feel like that would be a good fight for both women because they cleared their divisions out. Pena, right. She can't come back for another fight for a while. Apparently, she was getting surgery last night. That's how fucked up that she got. Right. So I think that's the fight to make next. Let's see who is the best female fighter of all time. Who's going to be number 2, and I feel like that should be the fight next. Amanda said last night after the fight, she did say she did want to take a little break. She wanted to go home in Brazil and be with the family. So if we do see that fight, the earliest would be December, but we might not see it till like January or February next year. And that's cool for us, though. That's cool. It gives time to build new contenders up and shit. So
now we did have a fight coming up next weekend as well, but that fight was canceled. That's right. Jake Paul, the faux boxer that we've had pretty much for the last few years, will not be boxing Rahman Jr. pretty much.
Hassan Rahman Jr.
Thank you for pronouncing it correctly.
I'm just saying, man, because I got a name that I know motherfuckers, like when they see this shit, they're going to butcher it. Not because if they really want to, it's just like, damn, I don't know how to pronounce that. So every time I see somebody with a name, and if I know how to pronounce it correctly, because I heard them announce it their proper way, I always try to give them that respect because I know what it feels like when motherfuckers be jacking my shit up. So
No, that's fair, and I respect it. If I butcher your name, it's not on purpose and it's not out of spite.
Right.
I just can't pronounce it well, and it is what it is. So I
Yeah.
apologize for that. But Jake Paul's not fighting next weekend. He supposedly canceled it, and according to Dana White, it cost about $500,000 to turn the lights on at MSG, and apparently they did not sell over $1 million worth of tickets. And they said also hotels and travel expenses do add up as well over time. He pretty much said, hey, look, I don't think he really had the money to do everything he was trying to do and pay the fighters who were going to fight. Who knows what the real story behind it is, but we do know that Jake Paul has still not fought an accredited fighter. And not only that, this fight has gotten canceled when it's been canceled a couple of times. So what do you guys have to say about this? I don't think it's a good look for Jake Paul because he's supposed to fight Tyson Fury's brother, then that didn't happen, then this didn't happen. Maybe he fights Tyron Woodley for a third time or something like that. Maybe he can find some redemption. You know what I mean?
Man, listen, Tyron Woodley knows to stay wherever he stays now. Like whatever, I don't even know what Tyron Woodley does anymore. T-Dog.
He's a trainer.
Oh, he is.
No shame in that. No, I'm just saying I don't know what he's doing.
Oh, I was gonna say if he was a physical trainer, that's what's up.
Like, he can't be a fighting trainer. He can't be a coach.
That's a fall right there.
It's not.
He's working at your local gym.
Yeah, Planet Fitness.
Listen, I see it like this. If whatever makes Tyron Woodley happy in life, if he wanted to become a rapper again, and he was like,
don't do that. Don't do that.
T-Dog, come. Nigel and Lyle trying to do this track with you. You want to do a song with him?
I'll do a song with him. Yeah, because it's there's going to be money involved and some type of exposure. I would do the song not to be like, I'm trying to get on as a rapper too, but I would do the song like, hey, highly advised podcast. You know what I mean? Check us out.
A good business opportunity.
Right. Exactly.
What if he was like, I'm making this song and I'm gonna play this in front of Jay-Z, so I want y'all on this.
Great.
Yeah.
I hope he does hear my voice. It's gonna be good. I can't speak for his.
Yeah.
What if he was like, I had to take you off that whole off that song with Ho. I think he said he just wanted me on the song.
Yeah.
At that point, it's like, dude, you wasted our time.
What do y'all think about Jake Paul canceling this fight? What do y'all make of it?
To me personally, I think the walls are just closing in even more. Jake Paul, for the most part, is always been it's from an entertainment standpoint. I love what he does, right? It's entertaining, but from a sense of him trying to take this serious role of like, I'm gonna actually be a professional boxer, X, Y, and Z. Similar to what you said, he's always found some way of shaking around actually facing a real boxer with multiple professional fights. Like he hasn't fought a professional boxer to this point. And I think he realizes from a business standpoint also like, hey, this has probably ran its course. Like we all loved watching it initially when it was like with Floyd and with Tyron Woodley and the kid from YouTube. Like, but now at this point, I think people realize like, oh, you're just talking. And we all know, like even Hasim, like he even said when we sparred against each other, because that's like the whole thing Jake Paul was running with. He's like, yo, your team told me I only can fight you with one hand in sparring and I beat you. Like, so I think he realizes like, hey, I'm not making any money off of this. I'm probably going to lose money in all reality. And I'm probably going to end up really hurt because this guy, because let's be honest, whoever is against Jake Paul, whoever teaches him a lesson in the ring, they're going to have their name circulated for like at least a week.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I think I'm gonna agree with Dana on this, that the fight wasn't canceled because of weight issues, or as Jake Paul claims, the pressure got to Hassan.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. Okay. But I think I'm gonna side with Dana White on that one. I think it's more or less of, hey, the fight wasn't going to do well on pay-per-view. It was probably going to do peanuts, and it wasn't selling out Madison Square Garden. Hey, the WWE is spanking us, man. We can't put this fight on. And I think that's a damn shame, right? If you have a big fight coming to Madison Square Garden, it's supposed to be the mecca of fights in the world. You have to make sure it sells out. You don't want to put bum fights on one of the most grandest stages for a fight. There was a big interest in this fight to begin with, because it's not a knock on Hasem, but it was kind of like, all right, at first people were like, well, he's fighting a sparring partner, so this guy's just going to do the job to look at the lights for Jake.
Right.
And now as things started to come out, we're like, oh, well, Hasem he's actually not that bad. Yeah, he just got knocked out his last fight, but if you watch that fight, he was actually winning and he just got caught. All right. Now you'd be like, well, Hasem, he's kind of not backing down. He's saying shit that, if you really notice and pay attention, Jake hasn't come out to dispute it. So maybe the spar sessions are going the way that Hasem was saying. Like, he was only there just to really help Jake, but it wasn't like Jake was spanking him. And
right.
And then apparently Logan Paul was trying to talk Jake out of this fight already, saying like, hey, this is too much. This is like too much of a big step for you. This isn't washed up MMA fighter X. This is a guy who may be in his prime or not even in his prime yet. Because, Hasem only has 13 fights. So, as you know, in a boxing career, that's still a little early. Yeah. So I think there was just a lot of negative factors from Jake. And like Spence would say, he was probably going to be losing money on this fight. This wasn't like a big box office type of fight. So I just think that it was just bad business from the start. So once it came down to the point where it was kind of like, look, we're not going to make a fucking dime off of this. You might actually be in the negative. They probably was like, hey, fuck it. Let's just cancel it altogether. Now I think that moving forward, though, when it comes to Jake, he has to fight a boxer. I don't even want him to fight Anderson Silva. He has to fight. Because the thing with Anderson Silva, another washed up MMA fighter, and Anderson Silva he's a legend. You could even say he's the greatest of all time, depending on what you're looking at. But far as a boxer, the dude is in his mid-40s. He's only boxing to box for fun. He's not boxing to have a career, Yeah. So Jake needs to fight somebody. He has to fight somebody who's a boxer. Nobody wants to see the Tommy Fury thing. And if they do the Hasem thing, it has to be like Jake is moving up to heavyweight. So it can't be like, oh, Jake is trying to get this guy to cut 30 to 40 pounds again. Like Smith said, the wall is closing in. The 15 minutes of fame is starting to run thin. It's time for Jake to really get real and fight a legitimate opponent. Nobody's saying he has to fight a champion, a world class, but fight somebody. You got to fight somebody legitimate. No bullshit clauses, excuses, because people are starting to run out of pay. Even his diehard fans don't give a fuck no more. Because if it did, the fight would still be on. So it is what it is. We'll see what happens with Jake Paul moving forward, but I think the 15 minutes of fame is going to end up being over.
Yeah. I mean, I put it like this, man. I totally agree with you. Jake Paul, to be honest with you, it may be time for him to maybe take the approach of just being a promoter. If that's one of the things he wants to do, figure out just when I say promote, just promote the professional fighters or be the financial backing for those fighters, but don't get in the ring. Cause at this point it's like, it's a circus act. And to be honest with you, I really wouldn't even personally, I wouldn't be enthused to go see him fight somebody, even if it was a professional fighter at this point. Cause if he were to fight someone, only way I would accept seeing him fight someone at this point would be years from now. And that would signify he's been training. He's been doing all the things that any professional fighter would be doing, which I don't think in his situation financially is, I don't think it's always the best option when you think about risk versus reward. Like, you make tons of money now. Why go into a real sport and get your head cracked in? Like, especially when you know, like, people know your head is at the stake anyway. And at the same time, like you said, you shouldn't, if you're fighting somebody, don't do all this catch weight stuff. Fight someone at the right weight. And if you can fight there, or if anything, you drop weight.
Yeah.
You drop weight so you cut weight so you can fight a opponent where you're actually bigger than, and it's legal in the parameters. But
honestly, at this point in time, I don't even want to see him promote fights, because I think he comes off just as janky as a promoter as he does a fighter. So
I mean, that's promote.
Yeah, that's boxing 101 though. You can't.
Do we need another one?
Yeah, I at this point, the damage has already been so far done. It is what it is, you know.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. In terms of janky promoters, I wouldn't have been surprised. Like, from a janky promoter stance, when you said something about, oh, maybe he wouldn't have enough money to pay the fighters also. From a janky promoter stance, I'm like, he might not even pay the fighters. He might just be like, yo, catch me in court, gingerbread man. Like,
damn. Nah, I don't think that's wild. That's wild. We'll have to see about that.
Yeah. It wouldn't be surprising though.
I think he has a future in promotion, because apparently he got Amanda Serrano $1 million payday, which is very rare for a female boxer. So with that, he could have a future in promotion, you know, and you don't have to be an honorable promoter, especially in boxing. You don't have to be on, you know, but if he can make money promoting, then why not? And I'm not telling Jake Paul, there's nothing I'm going to tell him because I don't know him personally, but I'm not saying that he should quit his boxing career. But in my opinion, I just think the dude you need to either fight a real boxer, so this way it's justifiable for you to get that bullshit WBC ranking that scumbag was going to give to you, or just do celebrity boxing fights. And people are cool with celebrity boxing fights because they know, like, hey, these are just bullshit fights. It's fun fights. But you can't be like, I'm going to be a champion in 3 years, beat Canelo and da-da-da, if you're not fighting the right competition. You know what I mean? When people are defending him, it's like, oh, you're supposed to fight nobodies in your first few fights. Here's the difference with people coming up in their first few fights. They're fighting against other boxers. He's not. You're telling me that it's okay to fight Ben Askren. It's okay to fight a YouTuber, and it's okay to fight a basketball athlete. How could he sell that as a good resume? How? You know, to me, those look like celebrity boxing fights, not professional future world champion going to beat Canelo fights. And he's angling fights with people smaller than him. He's begging for the Conor fight. He's begging for Floyd, 45-year-old Floyd, who fights at, you know, his real weight class is 135, Floyd. Like, come on. This dude is walking around 200 some pounds, and you're trying to call out a fucking bantamweight. It is crazy.
He's just, like you said, he's a celebrity fighter, man, at this point. Like, if anything, do a tour with Floyd of doing exhibitions, and just don't fight Floyd at that point. To be honest with you, I think the main reason why he fights these smaller guys especially is because he knows, like, hey, worst come to worst, where skill doesn't fall, at least I'm stronger. In his mind, probably. But he's not, I don't know. He's, at this point, he's satire in terms of, like, his boxing achievements or desires. At some point, I wouldn't be surprised if we see, like, him being, like, some type of character in a film, like, and, like, just in retrospect at some point, man.
Yeah, it's you know, seeing Jake and his unrealistic, you know, expectations as being a boxer, you know, it brings me to Nope, which I know you saw last weekend, like I did, which was also unrealistic.
That's fucking crazy. The transition. I love it though. That was great.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So last weekend, me and Spence saw Nope. Now, I know you did not, and it's okay. We will not spoil anything for you. But
Thank you.
in my opinion, the answer to go and see this movie in the theaters is also no. You should not. I think that personally, this movie is all right. I would say I think it's better than the Thor movie that we reviewed not so long ago. But that being said, though, when you're spending about $35 or $25 a pop for a person, it's kind of like, do you really want to go there to see something that's average, or would you get like a 8 out of 10, 4 out of 5 type movie? Me personally, I'm going to go and see the movies that are, at the least better to great movies, and I can kind of stay home for the fun rides, which it's not a bad movie. There's some interesting things that happen here and there, and there's also some useless things that happen here and there, in my opinion. And it's a step down from Us. It's a step down from Get Out, and it's not my favorite, but it's not terrible. And that's pretty much where I leave it.
Yeah. I'll say it like this. When I went to go see the movie, I wasn't, I'll say this, for the most part, when you're watching the film for the first time, the writing is pretty good. Like there's some pretty good writing for the most part of the movie. Overall, I wasn't the biggest fan of this movie. Similar to Nigel's opinion, I downgrade this behind the others that he has put out so far of the Us's, he didn't put out Get Outs. Who put out? Did he do They?
No.
Okay. Yeah, that was a crazy trend also that he created. That was a crazy trend.
Us, They. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. The show. I know.
Us, They, We.
Just one word movies.
All around the same thing. Like,
should work on one called Trap. I'd be cool with that.
That should be the name of the next movie.
Yeah.
Make a horror movie based around that shit. It'd probably be better than Nope. That's a damn sure.
Yo, and have Gucci Man. Have Gucci Man
as a narrator.
Yeah.
What if he was like the folk hero?
Wow.
Oh, Jesus. No, I really want him to narrate the story. I think that would be interesting. Have it based in Atlanta too. Shit.
Yeah, why not?
Not or Wakanda. Like,
you don't want to have a movie named Trap based in Wakanda?
T.I. calls Atlanta the modern day Wakanda. So
T.I. says a lot of things. So I'm not sure if I want to go with that.
Nah, indeed he does. But just in terms of like the movie though itself, I would say this. The things I'll say without spoiling anything, the things I'll say that I did like were some of the writing, some of the direction of the movie at certain points.
It's not all bad.
Yeah, it's not. To be honest with you, it's not all that bad of a movie. It's just there's highs and lows. I'll put it that way. There's highs and lows depending on like the person, depending on who's watching the movie, of course. Like some people love it, some people don't. Personally, I think there's unnecessary parts in the movie but yeah, like I will say this though. I think out of some of the movies I've seen, I think this movie with Keke Palmer, I think she did a really good job acting. I really loved her acting in this movie, as well as Daniel Cumblier. I think that's how you say it.
I thought it was Kahlua.
I thought it was Kahlua too, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think so. I think I might be thinking of somebody else also. But yeah, like even Daniel, like for him, like I think he did a pretty good job as well.
I thought the tech guy was funny.
Yeah, he was funny. He was funny. He was a little annoying, but like he was funny. He was annoying, but he was funny at the same time. Like I don't know, like like when you watch the movie, you'll understand more what we're referring to. I can't wait till you watch the movie live because there are some parts of the film I do want your take on it. Like,
yeah,
I'll put it like this: if I can see it, I know you can see it because it's like it's the most unrealistic thing you've ever seen in your life.
Well, I'm gonna try to watch the movie sometime this week. So maybe if I can watch this movie this sometime this upcoming week, I'll probably go ahead and give my little take on it on the next episode.
All right, that's a bet. And plus, there's like after you watch it, let me know because I'll send you some of the fan theories I've seen so far.
Send those to me.
Yeah, I definitely got you. You know, and I know this wasn't something we had on our list, but I don't know why, but watching that film, it made me, I don't know. Have you guys heard anything more about like, is there going to ever be a Tenet 2?
Nah, man, I haven't heard anything about it yet. I think the next Christopher Nolan film is Oppenheimer, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's going to be hard. That's going to be a good
Oh,
movie.
shit. Okay.
Shouts out to Christopher Nolan. He's made a few good films at this point in time. You got to be able to trust him when he's made like Dark Knight, Tenet, Inception, like he has more than a few. Like he's one of the guys right now.
So from like reading things online and stuff, there's nothing that's saying a Tenet 2 is in the works, but it seems like the actors and actresses are on board for it. And it's the door on a sequel is not closed. It's just is not in the works. So we could see it later down the line, but obviously we don't know. Nothing is guaranteed. I would love to see a second movie. But of course, it all depends on Christopher Nolan. That's his shit. So I would love to see a second one, but right now it doesn't seem like nothing's currently in the works for one. But it is wanted. People do want it.
Yeah. Well, if hopefully something comes of it, and if not, maybe Jordan Peele might take his own stab at it.
No,
nope.
We don't need that. We don't. We just don't. So
Tenet 2 by Jordan Peele.
Moving on from movies.
So many jokes in there, yo.
Beyonce put out her most recent album, Renaissance, and people are giving their opinions on it. I had a chance to listen to a decent bit of the album, and I thought it was pretty good. It's a dance album for the most part. I mean, there's also some other stuff on there, like "Cuff It" was a song that stuck out to me, which sounds like a funk song, I guess is probably the best way to put it. But I thought it was a good song. The transitions are something that people keep on talking about on this album, and I think that part of it is good. But overall, the music doesn't sound bad. It sounds like Beyonce doing a dance album. I think people are a little bit more receptive to this than Drake putting out the dance album, just because they probably recognize her as more of a singer. That some of the songs sounds similar to some of the music she's put out before, but not necessarily exactly like it. And I mean, I like the music overall doesn't sound too different, but it is somebody different putting their spin on it. So like it's a interesting album to be the first of the new trilogy that she's recently announced for me.
So I listened to the Beyonce album. Here's my big positive of it. The transitions are amazing. I love the transitions to each song. It makes the album feel like cohesive and is all part of, hey, all this belongs. That's like my big positive of the album. But my criticism of the album, I don't think the album is that. I don't think it's all that. Now, I did say last week, listeners, hey, Nigel and I, and Spence, because he is here with us. Hey, look, we're not the biggest Beyonce fans. We actually are not the biggest fans of like the genre. Not saying we don't like the genre or we don't listen to music for the genre, but we're, in Spence's words, we're not the measuring stick for this brand of music. So
You're right though.
So for me, it's like I'm going to give you a casual take. I like Beyonce and I like some of the music. I even like some of the songs off the album. But as the casual fan that I am of Beyonce, I don't think this album is all that. Like, this is not an album I'll be spinning multiple times. There are certain songs on there I can't listen to. Like, obviously, I already said last week, I like Break My Soul. I think that song is a dope song. There's other songs on there like Energy. I think Energy is cool. I think what's that song that all the girls were talking about, Church Girl or whatever. That song is cool too, but I just think that overall I'm not gonna press play on it right out the gates. So I'll give it another listen and give it another chance. Maybe I might like some things that I didn't really pick up on throughout my first listen. But what my biggest take of it was the transitions were good. I love the transitions of the album. I actually think more rappers should use transitions in their shit. I know rappers do it all the time, like for example, Travis Scott, but I think that makes an album a lot better when you add transitions into it. Not saying every album needs to be, but that's just my opinion on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to the transitions on the album, I think that definitely helps a lot. It to me when I played it through, it kind of felt like I was just at like a club, more or less. Like it felt like a club, like some DJ just had a Beyoncé set.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of how I ran through. For the most part, I didn't really check in on all the criticism. I did hear it's not as favorable to some as it is to others. But personally, to me, I don't think it was a bad album. To me, I think the music is good enough that to me personally, I feel like I can hear this being played out at certain places. Not every spot, of course, but like in certain spots where this type of music is played, or it's just that type of vibe, more or less. Like, because this is like something you're playing in the background. If it's at a club, you might have it at a dance club, but at the same time, you might have it at a nice dinner type of upbeat type of dinner place where it's like it's current music, but it's not like, I guess I don't know how to put it, but nonetheless, I think for the most part, it's a good album. I wasn't a fan of all of the songs. Just like similar to like Lau said, we're not the people to say what is a great Beyonce album, what's not a great Beyonce album, because this isn't our core space. But it was cool for what it did, for what it's worth. To me, I think the real question out of this is really, because we all know typically the artists at the top typically become the tastemakers for the artists that follow for the years following. I'm curious to see what my question really is, like, what direction does this take music? And definitely the artists that we see, like that we know of now that we're fans of, and like the artists that are going to be coming in, like what direction music is taking at this point.
I agree with you 100%. And I hope that it has that type of stretch, because that would change the rap pretty much platform as well. You know, like a lot of rap right now we have where, you know, rappers like to be a little bit more melodic, but if the R&B singers are going more, and no, I mean, that's just what it is. That's what it is.
No,
like,
I'm just thinking of hearing Lil Durk on one of these type of beats.
Well, no, so that's my point, right? So, like, if the sound of melodic music goes more in the space of dance and just more upbeat, then where does that leave the melodic rappers? Because, like, I think they get caught up in that. The space that they're in is caught up because a lot of R&B at the moment kind of mirrors that. But what happens when it doesn't? You know, like, do they go back to rapping more, or do they go more melodic than that? You know, I'm just curious.
I mean, I think it would create a fork in the road for them. I do agree to that. I think some of them would still be able to be in that space.
Yeah.
Just because of the content.
The high tier ones.
Yeah. Like the content that they talk about, like a lot of these like melodic rappers, they're not talking about like, oh, I just want to love this girl. And, oh, like I can't wait to be like, granted, they say some of that stuff, but at the same time, they talk about killing, smoking the ops. Oh, I had some ish happen. We not. Don't get me wrong. I don't expect to hear like Luke James tell me about him like having to go slide and hit a switch while singing. You know what I'm saying? Like I mean, if that's a Luke James you listen to loud, I'm not mad at it.
I'm just thing about the pain rappers, the melodic rappers, the pain rappers is they're not rapping, man. They're not. That's what I've been saying for a long time, and I know a lot of other people are saying. So if the music, if let's say, hey, R&B gets into the house music dance era, right, where that's at the forefront for the time being, and if a lot of melodic rappers like to copy the R&B style, a lot of them are going to fall off. And I feel like you guys mentioned, the top ones, like your Thugs, like your Futures, and yeah, they're going to maintain their spot because they're kind of versatile, because they weren't always in the pain era neither. They came from the trap era, and they've tried their hand at trying to rap, whatever. But like these lower tier guys, these industry plant McDonald rappers, they're going to fall the fuck off. I don't, and a lot of them talk about women, but nobody listens to them for their talks about women. They really, a lot of them, the reason why a lot of people like listening to them is more or less for the sound and the vibe, not for the lyricism, because they don't have great lyricism, to be honest with you. So that's just my take on the melodic. You know me, I'm not a big fan of melodic rappers as a whole. Yes, there are certain ones I do like. I do like your Futures. I do like your Young Thugs. I like your Gunners. I like your Little Babies. I even like some of the ones that you don't like, Spence. I like your Playboy Cardis, and I like your Trippie Reds. But there's a lot of them I do not like. So, and the ones that I mentioned, those are the top guys of the game. They're not they're not the fucking fodder guys that we have to deal with every week. So that's just my episodic melodic rapper rant.
It's just a casual, that's all, man.
Hey, it is what it is.
It's like nah, but nah, I trust me, I there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I think it's, when it comes to like that style of music, I do agree. I think some of them are going to fall off. Some of them are going to adjust. Some of those artists are going to adjust. And hey, man, like I can't even think of any like I only listen to like a handful of these guys also. So like I'm not going to sit here and lie and be like, oh, I'm in the trenches with like
the trenches.
The trenches. Like, I'm not in the trenches with some of these artists. Like, I don't know. It's like there's a couple artists. Like I think there's like maybe one melodic rapper I started listening to that was new. You ever heard of Lil Darius?
No.
No, I've not heard of Lil Darius. So.
Shouts out to Lil Darius.
Yeah. Did you make him up? That sounds crazy.
Nah, he's like one of the younger up and coming rappers out of Atlanta.
Have you heard of Jaleel?
Beats?
Oh, that's funny. That's actually funny.
That's funny. Well, do we have anything else for the listeners?
Not really much. Couple things for fans, especially those fans of CMG who just dropped a project recently. One of the recently signed artists, Mozzy, he just turned himself in to do a 1 year sentence in jail for some weed and gun possession from last year. As many know, he was a new artist. Well, he was newly signed to CMG, but I don't think that's going to be a year. Hopefully a year goes by fast, and he says this will be a learning experience for him. And outside of that, I think some of the best news I heard this week was Lupe Fiasco announcing the cool 15-year anniversary tour. It's like maybe 5 or 6 cities around the country. So outside of that, those are like the 2 things that I would say were like just additional little tab pieces. But yeah, like other than that, I'm just telling people, drink your water, be safe out here. Monkeypox is on the rise.
Yeah,
it's kind of crazy, actually.
That shit is crazy.
Yeah, like I think they said in Georgia they found the first woman with monkeypox too.
Ooh. Is that the photo that I've been going around? Her chin all crazy. Yeah. Ooh.
That Pittsburgh. It's not too far. It's all over the East Coast.
Yeah, apparently there's I haven't had a chance to read into it. So like we said before, you can't believe everything you see on the internet.
Yeah, but, that's true.
That's very true. I believe there's also a doctor that's making a case that he discovered this like in 2017, apparently. And he spoke about monkeypox, but it went ignored. But yeah.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah. But at the same time, like that's the internet. Gotta fact check that first before. I'm not saying that that's legitimate, just a headline that I saw. But yeah. Other than that, though, drink your water. Be safe out here. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, please.
Yeah, it's just getting crazy out here.
Do you have anything for the listeners, Lau?
Yeah. So I want to say, make sure you follow us at the Highly Advised Podcast on Instagram. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, or we're coming to fuck you up, break your neck at the Highly Advised Podcast. And make sure you follow us on Twitter at Advise Highly. And also, listeners, Nigel and I last week, we did like a little short special episode of reviewing what new Marvel movies that we're excited to see. Is the Marvel Phase 5 special. Make sure you check that out. It's exclusive to YouTube at the Highly Advised Podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube at the Highly Advised Podcast. Make sure you DM Spence, because he will make sure to tell you the Cash App for the Highly Advised Podcast. We're not accepting nothing less than $10. The Cash App at the Highly Advised. Get your mom, your grandma, your aunt, your uncle, your cousin, brother, sister, even goddamn it, get your goddamn kids. Make sure you hit that motherfucking Cash App. It's $ Highly Advised. $ Highly Advised. $ Highly Advised.
Get on your Cash App.
Yeah, make sure you get on it. All right, listeners, this has been episode 106 from Heel Jackson, Relaxing, No G_Jackson, from Big Cozy to Cozy. Look it up. Use your brains to find that. And from Dr. Magneto himself.
You know it, baby.
Spence.
AKA Saint Kitch.
Saint Kitch.
Listeners, you've been highly advised. We will see you next week.
Yes.
You've been highly advised.
The listeners missed that, man. You already know, see?
You know what I'm saying? Stepping back on their necks now, man. I mean, gotta give a listener a noogie once in a while now.
That's fair. All right, y'all.